Okay, let's talk about details, because in scripture, and I'll drop a link in the description notes, whatever you want to call it. In Matthew, God asks these two fellows what they want him to do for them. And he is asking them to be specific. He's not asking them to say, "Oh, make me feel better. Oh, make me happy." You know, those are very general terms. He wants us to be specific. And I don't know, but I think he wants us to be specific and pay attention to the details, because then we will actually see exactly what it was that he did. Because if we come at this from, "Oh, make me healthy," and well, then the cold goes away, but we don't really pay attention to it because we're just kind of feeling better. But if we say, oh, I've got this cold, I would really like to get rid of this cold. And this is just a very, very general example. But if we pray specifically, and when we talk to God specifically with detail, it gives us the opportunity to see the absolute intensity that he cares for us and how specific his love is. Okay, I'm just doing all my talking with my hands and not doing anything fun. So here, let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's come to this page that I've kind of been working on through these videos. And let's put in some detail. And we're gonna do this as a for instance. So for instance, if this section right here is a section that I have created, God and I have worked on and talked about, and it's for a little community, then to be more detailed about the community and the people that live in that community, maybe I want to, and maybe part of the detail is that I want their environment to just grow and bloom and blossom, like literally their gardens. I want the gardens that they're growing, because one little community that I know of plants a garden every year. They hunt. They're very, very living off the land, really cool, back to that kind of lifestyle, which is amazing. So maybe I want to pray that, they have a great garden, that everything grows and blossoms and blooms for them. So maybe the way I'm going to do that, instead of drawing a whole bunch of flowers and stuff in here, maybe I'm just going to go in and give these trees some detail. And this is a Micron 08 that I'm using. So this would be just a little bit of detail to say, you know what, maybe their gardens and their crops need to grow. Maybe their cows need to produce and be happy cows, that sort of thing. So just that little bit right there, and then I might go in and drop a little circle in here. And then I'm gonna pick up my whites. This is a Posca, and you shake these up as you can hear it. And it has a white. The white on top of Tombow markers doesn't always turn out really, really white, but you have this nice little contrast. So because of that, maybe I'm thinking of the story in the Old Testament where they were separating the herds from the spotted and the not spotted. But maybe I'm thinking, what if their herds could multiply? And instead of cows, I'm drawing dots, because I don't want to draw that many cows, but I'm going to be detailed in my thinking and let every little dot resonate as a cow under a tree. That would work, right? So I just keep going down through here, and God and I are kind of talking about the cows, and I know some of the people out there are raising some Angus, and some of them are raising Hereford. And it's only because I know this little community that I know what cows they're raising. But if you were doing this for a city or for a neighborhood, you would use the same idea, and you could do dots or circles or, whatever. So you've got a little more detail right there. And then maybe I want to think about them being prosperous. And I want to think about their land being prosperous, but I want to be specific about their prosperity. And I want it to not just be financial, I want it to be emotional. And I want them to be prosperous in their walk with the Lord. So I would take this gold, what is this, Signo Uniball. Where's the name? Oh, there it is. You can't read it upside down. Signo Uniball. Uniball Signo, something like that. So I would take this gold, and just for this section that I know is for that little community, I would come in here and think about, how can I signify growth? How can I signify, or what to me means prosperity for these people? And I think it would be something just as simple as drawing lines that were not straight, obviously, because we all know I don't draw straight lines. And if you're just hanging out with me for the first time, I don't draw straight lines. I just don't. I'm not even sure I ever wanted to. We just embrace what is. So for their prosperity, I'm kind of doing these lines, and I'm thinking that God would shine down on them with prosperity, like he shines the sun down and causes the flowers to grow and the plants to grow. And then I'm actually going to change my lines where I was going down, and I'm going to go straight across, and now I'm going to start going up, just for a change of pace. And up is so much more difficult than down. So turn your page. If it's difficult, turn your page. So you can see how a little bit of detail changes. And isn't that true? A little bit of detail with God changes what we see in our perspective. Okay, so there's just a little bit more. Okay. So that would be for that little community. Now, maybe I want to think about praying for the country, praying for our nation, praying for our leaders. And maybe I want to think about, maybe this section was the section that God encouraged me to pray for the country, for our leaders, for my local community and leaders and region and state and on and on. And so they became leaves. Okay. So maybe for this one, I'm going to do, you know what? I don't even know what I'm gonna do, because yeah, this is off the top of my head right this minute, and I see I want to put another gold right there, because there, that just looks better. So for this one, I'm going to take the micron again, this black, and I am going to divide these leaves into their own little domain. Okay. And then I want to think about protection for, excuse me, protection for our leaders in my town, in my county, in my state. So that protection, I think I want to just come back and outline this leaf like this. That God would put a hedge of protection around their decisions, their ability to make decisions, the things in their personal life that they're struggling with that would be difficult for them. Maybe God will put, ask him to put protection around their family, their children, their spouses, their extended family. And then think about protection around the people that work for them and their families and what they're going through in their lives. And then this is part of one, so we'll just come down and do it that way. Okay. And then again, I'm going to go back with this gold. I like the gold. And I'm going to come right back and do more of these dotted lines that signify God's protection for them, for their families, for the people that work with them. And I'm not even taking these lines straight to, they're all wonky. It's okay. Wonky is good. Have you seen the platypus? I would say a platypus that God created was kind of wonky. There's some other wonky ones too, but I can't remember them right now off the top of my head. Okay, so then we have a little more, and I'm actually going to go back. Now this is called a food ball, and this writes on everything. I'll drop it in description links too. And it's a much thicker black. This is an 8 and it's pretty thick. This one is a much thicker one and it's 1.5. Okay, so I want to come back in here, maybe. And just, there we go. It was clogged a little bit. Because even though each branches of government and everyone that works in these branches of government lives in different places, these dots are representative because they're all people. We are all people that are working together in our environments. And if each section is my city, my county, my state, my region, and maybe the nation, then these black dots are really easy to represent the other people in those areas. And I can be very specific when I'm praying. Every one of these black dots, every one of these lines, everything can have a specific meaning to it. As I said, I'm just giving you an example. So let me give you another example real quick. That was a quick one. And let's say you come to a page and it's all there, but it's got a lot of blank space, and a lot of these have blank space, and I've done that on purpose so you can go in and fill them in. I want to go back one more time, and I'm going to use a pencil. And if I'm coloring this in, one space at a time, and what I tend to do, I will tell you now, what I tend to do is take one color, and I think I've said this before, I'll take one color and I might fill in 2 or 3 spaces, and then I'll take another color and fill in 3 more spaces and just keep going like that. Or sometimes I just pick up the color palette I've chosen and just start coloring. But what I'm going to say here is when you come to a page like this, and there's lots of blank space here, and there's blank space in here, and blank space here, these are your opportunity. This is your opportunity to add to what this is, okay? I'm gonna take a pencil, and that's what I would encourage you to do, is take a pencil and then use a black, you could use a black pen. I wouldn't use a black, you could use a black Sharpie, but don't use something over the pencil that is going to bleed if you color it again, okay? So I might take my pencil and come in here and think about making my tree have some interesting thoughts going on. which is always fun when you get trees thinking. Did you know trees think? Yeah, me neither, but obviously they do. Just because I said they did, right? So that's a really simple, I just added something extra to it. For these guys, I may come in and just add a circle at the top. And usually this is based on what I'm thinking and what God and I are talking about. And again, I'm not using my wrist. I'm using my entire hand. You'll see that my hand is going in and out of my sleeve. It's because I'm using my entire arm to attempt to draw circles, which are never completely, perfectly circles, but they're good enough. And then this one. Okay. So then I would come back with a micron. And before I did any coloring on the ones that I just added to, I would go back over it with the micron. And the micron is not going to bleed once you let it dry. And this is black, and it's a thicker ink than what your page is done in, and that shows you and that gives you depth and lets you see this was important. This is something that was important to me. This was something God and I were talking about that I needed to add, that I don't want to forget about. And I always do it in pencil first and go over it with the black. Because if I start doing something with a permanent pen, I can guarantee I am totally going to mess it up. And in fact, I have a terrible time tracing over something I've already drawn, obviously, because you can see I'm not doing a great job like with that one, that's for sure. But you know, it's okay. It is totally okay. Okay, so again, just a little more detail. And that detail is because you're thinking and you're talking to God, and then he's like, let's go down another layer. Let's get a little more specific. Okay, let's get a little more specific. And he keeps asking you to get specific, because as you get specific, that's when you learn what his heart is. You learn what the fine detail is that leads to what we think is just the big picture, and it allows us to see so much more. Okay? So consider doing this with the other pages. There's lots of pages in here that have tons of extra space in them. See, there's one of the trees that I did that way. These little guys have 3 dots in them. This one has a ton of space for you to play around with. Okay? So happy coloring and happy creating.